It's Tuesday, March 24th, 9 p.m. in the DMV. I'm Sam Giacinto.
And 6 p.m. here in Los Angeles, I'm Jack Armstrong. Welcome to Tech Talk Live. Today, we've got a special guest. Welcome, Matthew. Matthew Whyatt is the founder and CEO of TechTorque, a B2B strategy, sales, and marketing agency that helps software and SaaS companies scale predictable revenue with a 25-year career that includes generating over $100 million in revenue. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome, Matthew.
Thank you.
I'm curious because I'm an engineer by background, so that makes me somewhat technical, and I often think about times where maybe founders struggle with influence over being right. So a solution may be technically amazing and have excellent technical merit, but sometimes you need to kind of lose that argument in the spirit of winning the war. And I don't know if you had kind of examples or how that plays out when navigating the sales process. But that was something that's always been fascinating to me because you want the technical solution to win. It's technically right. Like, why don't people want it? It doesn't necessarily click for an engineer.
Yeah, so that's a great question where a lot of my clients start with is they go, I've got the best product in the market. Why doesn't anybody care about that I've got the best product in the market? And it's typically because the reason that the technically good products lose is because they're missing on the fact that people buy products, not computers, or businesses buy products. So sales, if you think about, a lot of people think about sales as in B2C, as in business to customer, or B2B as in business to business. Sales is and business is actually a H-to-H engagement, human to human. So when we recognize that people buy things, then we have to look at the motivation of why they buy things. And so in my conversations with clients, often I'm saying, well, it's all well and good for you to have the best product, but what actually is the value system of the buyer? And certainly when my clients in the B2B world are selling to larger organizations, it's very rarely better or faster or cheaper is the correct answer. What we need to think about is how do we make sure that there's enough evidence in the marketplace that even if this software, this hardware, whatever, even if it blows up, there's enough evidence that the board are not going to sack the person who made that purchasing decision. So really, if you think to yourself, how do I think about this, and how do my customers think about this? And we position it, well, my bum's going to be covered, so I'm going to be okay. And if you can add in an element of, this is going to make me look good for my next promotion. This is going to make me look smart. I'm going to join a cohort of, forward-thinking, entrepreneurial people inside the organization who are just absolute go-getters and they're the best type of people. Then you'll find yourself in a situation where you will make more sales, even if your product is not the best, the fastest, or the cheapest. And that's why incumbents win, right? So if you think about, sorry to cut you off there, Jack. So if you think about that, we look at government, we look at, so I've worked with some of the largest companies in the world. I've sold to government. Rarely is it the best, fastest, or cheapest product that wins those deals. It's the ones that are safe. So safety and have trust. They're the ones that actually win the deal. So it's now on the entrepreneur who is technically capable to demonstrate trust, demonstrate market acceptance, and point to customers and point to products and point to areas in which they are trusted by others and transfer that trust across from one customer to another.
So you talk about like bio-led qualification over like traditional demos. Is this simply just because you need to create that human component and like have more of a story behind what you're building? That like, so your belief is that is more important in a lot of the sales process when selling software?
It is as important. And so, as the business that you're selling to gets bigger, it becomes more important. There's a tipping point in the mid-market somewhere. I can't tell you exactly where on the map it fits, but somewhere in the mid-market is no longer about the best solution. I guess it just depends on the number of layers of management between the person that buys it and the person that actually has the power at the board level or the CEO. We have to figure out, wherever that sits, that's where that power dynamic switches over from, I want to buy the best and cheapest and fastest thing, to the one that's going to make me look good. And if it blows up, my ass is covered.
I see.
You bring up a good point with kind of almost the politics of the situation, because at least a saying in in the IT industry is like no one ever got fired for buying Cisco, for example.
Correct.
It's a titan of it's just sort of like in that way, right? It's definitely not the cheapest option, but it certainly is the most it's the most in an abstract sense the most trustworthy option. And I think that's kind of that intangible that, especially in the modern era of the pipeline of content, written, image, video, I hate to bring up AI so early, right? But it's you can't escape the sheer amount of conflict. And even from a sales perspective too, it's easier than ever to maybe perhaps for lazy salespeople to create personalized leads and at least kind of put that effort into the human aspect and connection of it. So that's a very interesting point you brought up. Is a lot of it is kind of the politics of the situation. But
100%.
curious, to get your opinion too on your opinions of AI enables people who are lazy salespeople, but then also how does it augment high performers as well?
Oh man, I've written articles about this and I've had conversations about this aplenty in the last couple of 6 months. So my deep held belief is that AI is not going to replace salespeople. It's going to expose lazy ones. So much sandbagging happens. I'm a salesperson, right? One of our core competencies as a salesperson is to sandbag the manager and say that Sam's definitely buying it. And Jack, poor boy, oh boy, he couldn't be more interested and excited about the product. And 20 minutes before I got off the phone, and Sam's like, yeah, send me a brochure.
Yeah.
So salespeople are incredibly powerful and incredibly successful at sandbagging the manager, beefing up the pipeline, all that type of stuff. But every single sales conversation, every conversation typically these days is recorded. And if we are disciplined enough, we can take that transcript and we can pump it into some type of AI. And then out of that, you can have it, you can teach the AI how you do qualification, whether it be for high enterprise and MedPick, or it's, a BANT or whatever the qualification structure is. You can just test that. You can give it a sniff test and go, well, actually, Matt, Sam said, send me a brochure, which is tantamount to get out of my life, get off my lawn. So really, you haven't really got any type of commitment. You haven't booked a meeting from a meeting. You haven't demonstrated value. They haven't made any type of commitment. They haven't exposed any of their weaknesses or their vulnerabilities or their needs. So you're wrong. So this is where it's going to expose those lazy salespeople. On the flip side of that, it's going to massively empower good salespeople, because with products like Clay and Waterfall data enrichment that I use, I can take a lead from Facebook. This is my process. Take a lead from Facebook, pump it through a Waterfall data enrichment process where I actually know almost everything about the person, find them on LinkedIn, send them a super hyper personalized email, send them a text message. Like, these people are, after they respond to advertising, I know everything about them within about 5 minutes. And so a good salesperson will then take that contextual cue, and when they make that phone call, if it's appropriate to make the phone call, when they make the phone call or send the email, it'll be incredibly hyper personalized, hyper targeted, and the context then immediately allows you to step into the conversation the customer's already having in their own head.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like data is, or quality data combined with AI is one of the most powerful things founders can be doing for outreach these days.
Oh, absolutely. There is no excuse for crappy high first name emails. That is, or any type of conversation where you get on the call. So many salespeople showing up. The prospect, if we think about the buying journey for most prospects, they've become product, problem, or company aware. Then they've gone out there into the internet. They've looked at your Insta, or they've looked at your LinkedIn, or they've done a Google search. They've downloaded your white paper. They know something about your business. They've probably consumed an hour to 5 hours worth of content, and then the salesperson shows up with 30 seconds worth of preparation. They go, okay, so this person I'm talking to is Jack, and they come from Tech Talk. Okay, cool. They make no effort whatsoever, and it's like, oh, so tell me about your problem. Like, this is lazy, crappy sales. And this is where salespeople get a terrible reputation, because they don't make the effort to recognize that they're today in 2026 and beyond. I think the current Gartner data is telling us that the person's 60% along the sales decision process before they have to speak to a salesperson. So if I'm already 60% of the way there, you need to enter the conversation. You need to be, if they're in fifth gear, you got to be going at fifth. You got to be moving at fifth gear to keep up.
So what about when certain outreach systems like are doing, I don't want to say doing the work incorrectly, but like with AI, is it overhyped when the data is wrong? Or like, how do you, I mean, obviously you can verify some of that data, but like I get emails all the time from companies, and it's hard to know if it's like fully legit, if they actually mean everything in their email. Like, is it, or was this just an AI that like hallucinated some details about the company or whatever? Does that concern you? Like that wasted time?
Short answer, well, we all know that advertisers and marketers are going to waste our time anyway. So we have to be okay with, just emotionally okay with that. But then what I think is, this is what I've noticed, is if a person sends a hyper-personalized message to me and it smells a little bit of AI, but it's accurate, I go, this person knows what they're doing and they've got a bit of an understanding of my business. So I'll actually give their AI a bit of recognition, going, you know what, well done, well played, sir. So I don't mind if it's AI written. I just want to make sure it's accurate. If it's not accurate, then it's straight in the bin.
Well, so yeah, because everybody should be using automation systems, and if you're a good business, you should be using, even if it's not perfect, it shows that you're at least playing the game or trying to play the game to the best of your ability. I see. That's an interesting perspective. So what part do you think is overhyped? Is there a part that's like overhyped with outreach and sales, like in specifically in software sales to large businesses?
Well, the current meta on LinkedIn is, I generated 14 million leads in 3 days using a Claude bot. Comment Claude down below and I'll send you my framework. That's so tiring. I'm so over it. I wrote a bit of a snarky comment on LinkedIn today because I heard somebody go, we've helped countless businesses. And my comment was, numbers go embarrassingly high. A Google is one with 100 zeros. If you've actually helped more than a countless number of businesses, that means you've helped more businesses, and there are atoms in the observable universe. So please do make the effort to count. So, as a salesperson, I am prone to puffery, but as but living in the world today, I think it's important to be accurate. And if you've helped 10 people, then say you've helped 10 people. That's okay. Help 3 people. You've helped 3 people. So, so you do need to be focused on the customers, and the more narrow you get, the more clear you can be with the type of people, the type of conversations you have, and the more clear you can be with those conversations, the better cut through you'll have with your ideal customer profile.
So essentially be specific when it's important, because the vagueness creates kind of a bullshit, like it calls you out on, that's
totally
Yeah,
that's right. Because I deal with software and technology guys and girls all day. Like and you can't be vague when it comes to you shouldn't be vague when it comes to an engineer, because they live in a ones and zeros world. That's yes, no. And so, and then their customers who are buying, large technical or large implementations of products and services, they need correct answers, not some, fluffy crap.
Yeah.
And one other thing is that I find very, very important when selling B2B software, SaaS services, those types of things, is the value exists in the diagnosis almost as much as the product. If a person can fully explore their problem first, fully understand and embrace the problem and understand the ROI, that's when you'll be able to find a faster, more clear path to a sale. So straight through. So I often recommend my B2B customers sell the diagnosis piece first before they sell software, even though they're a software business. I actually bring in their piece of work that they do after the sale, like the first month, which is onboarding and connecting and all those things. Well, I would do the analysis work in the sales piece, charge for it, and productize it.
Interesting. That's smart. So you also mentioned demand should be like if you can't build a wait list and get enough demand, why build that feature or why build that business? Can you speak more to that?
So I am an early stage type of person. I like starting things. I have a short attention span, and so how that manifests itself in business is I have ideas, and AI and vibe coding have been an incredible, drug supplier for me. So I've been able to spin up a few ideas and send them out to my database, and some of them were responded to, in a not an enthusiastic way, and some of the ideas were responded to pretty enthusiastically. So I'll ask people to join a waitlist. I'll ask people to go and say, well, if this is of interest and we're going to buy it and you'd like to be part of the early cohort, then let us know. And so they go into an email list. Now we've got 300-400 people into a wait list. So when I launch the product, I know I've got a market ready to buy from me.
Smart, yeah. Because why waste the time if there's no audience like already waiting or ready? Yeah,
that's right. I built an idea which was to see if I could get people to pay me to help them get booked onto podcasts. And I know the product already exists. There's lots of them. I thought, well, what if I could sell it? Because I started vibe coding it, got a good old base 44 subscription, found out where I could get all the podcasts from, all that sort of stuff. That's great. I thought, wait a minute, sanity check. And I often have sanity check conversations with AI, and said, okay, let me just build a landing page. Let me build a landing page and a profile builder. And if I can send that out to the database, but if you put the flag up and nobody salutes it, then I just stop building it, and I've abandoned that project.
Interesting. Well, yeah, because why waste the time? Well, also if there's already a solution that people are utilizing that works, like I don't know, like what kind of value? Like so, people would pay your software to get on lists that then go out to podcasts. Because like for us running this podcast, we actually have people outreach all the time, and we're not paying for any tools that are like getting guests. It's always
but those people who are reaching out are probably paying for a product to find your podcast and outreach to you.
Exactly. Because they want the exposure, and that's valuable to them to share their story and get the.
And the idea was simply, well, if I can charge $200 a month for that and get, 200 customers, that's a cool little business that, I could just spin up, get somebody in the Philippines to manage the mechanics of it. 40 grand a month, happy days.
Yeah.
That's, so I don't need one, $10 million business. I'm very happy to have, half a dozen little applications sitting out there doing things. I've got some in-person stuff happening. I've got this happening, got that happening. So there's, I think that the, what they call the Renaissance man. So you've got to do a bit of everything these days.
You kind of do, right?
Yeah. Because that's how you build a personal brand. And if building a personal brand is, you're trusted for a particular thing. So I'm trusted to help B2B software and technology businesses, sell more to the right people. Well, then what are the spin-offs of that? Well, what's an aligned product that I could sell that helps somebody achieve that end goal? How can I also do public talks about that? Because AI is never going to get on stage and do a talk, right?
Yeah.
So I do more of that sort of stuff in person. Have conversations like this. They're the sort of things that I can do.
So what's so going forward, what's the future of Tech Talk, and what are you most excited for like building, and what invigorates you the most to help new software startups? Do you like being a part of like the building, or just like connecting people?
It's the building bit. So what I'm doing now with my agency, so it's a traditional agency. People come to me, hey, I need to sell more to the right people, solve my problem, and we do. And whether it's be, an activation, a Google ad, whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter. It's the strategy that sits over there and what's most appropriate for the customer. And so one of the things I've been pushing for a couple of years is helping people and entrepreneurs build personal brand. and by by publishing, communicating their value, and taking a unique hot take on the world. And so we used to charge thousands of dollars a month for that service, where we would interview the client using a journalistic style. We would then take that recording, hand it to a copywriter. That copywriter would then get signed off by the client, and it would be handed to the social media team. They'd break it up into social media posts, and the design team to design it. All of these multi-handoff stages, and it represented value because it helped the client. Well, we've built an AI that does that and actually can have a conversation with the client. And with 30 minutes conversation a week now, a person can publish a week's worth of high quality content, a couple of articles, a couple of posts across every platform every day. And that level of exposure to a person's way of thinking helps the market understand their value and how they think. So that product's called the Authority Rev Up. And that product is out there. If people want to check it out, they can. But it's a very, very cool way. It maps your brain. It holds all of your current knowledge base. You can have a conversation with your own brain and how you think about certain things. And so I use it to write articles for me. I help it to write video scripts, emails to my client base. I even take snippets off the internet. I'll find a YouTube video or a news article, drop it in, and then it will read the article, and then I'll have a conversation with it backwards and forwards. It'll say, hey, Matthew, I saw that you read this article. What's your take on it? And how do you? And then I'll say something. It'll then come back and ask me a question, gets me to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and really find those nuggets of nuance that exist in my head.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, so is that part of what you have the software businesses go through with Tech Torque when they're like?
Yeah, it makes sense for all of my clients. Yeah, all of my clients should be trying to continually publish every single day on the platforms that are most appropriate to their customers.
That's smart. And so the businesses that you're selling to, they're not paying Tech Torque for you to do the outreach. It's the software businesses that need the assistance that have the funding to pay for the outreach.
So just to be really clear, so one part's the content creation. That's a product of ours. But somebody will come to us and say, I need to, for example, so I've got a client at the moment in New York, and so we will build a technology stack that will help them do the outreach, help them do the communication, help them generate qualified meetings, and have those meetings booked into their partners and their salespeople's calendars. So we will we'll build this. We will build the strategy. We will then find the most. We're completely platform and tool agnostic. Across those sort of technical, because there's always somebody out there doing a really great job. So we'll go find the best one at the time. The Authority Rev Up is the content creation and distribution product, which we have built based on our requirements.
Gotcha. And so you find that works really well to generate just exposure and kind of get out there in the public eye.
Well, it's exactly. So as I said earlier, the clients are coming to us 60% along the way before they even speak to a client, before they speak to a business. There's 60% along the way. So it is absolutely imperative for people out there to be publishing content on a regular basis to be able to communicate their value and their unique point of view to the market, because there's an unlimited market out there. What we're trying to do is get my clients to communicate their point of view, and then they'll find the customers will come to them.
Smart. Yeah, that makes total sense. Interesting. I thought initially it was like a database where tech companies would join Tech Torque or something, and then the companies would come to them through some accelerator program, but it's not really this. Okay.
Not really. No. I'm an advisor with startups.com. I am and I do basically agency work. I have an agency, and then also have a product called Authority Rev Up.
Cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
And so what's the advantage of Authority Rev Up versus, I know this is kind of a basic question, but versus just ChatGPT's newest, or something like that? Can founders not quote unquote build it themselves, sort of? I mean, I know that
Absolutely.
there's probably a lot going on, but
there's
why?
tons going on. I mean, it's a series of agents that sit on top of all the LLMs. So it has a conversation, but really, you can go your own potatoes, but you're probably going to buy fries. So you can still build. The thing with AI, you can build all your own stuff if you're willing to put the energy, time, and effort into it. But most entrepreneurs are at a point where they're not looking for another job. They're not looking for another thing to do.
Yeah.
And they're the customers that I'm working with. They're the people who've gone, you know what? I would rather just have a 30-minute conversation per week, have the entire week of content been created, image created. We can track and understand what is going more viral across the platforms, because we've got two-way communication with products like LinkedIn and Insta, etc. We know what's happening. We know what's going on. The product will go ahead and recommend these types of visuals, this type of content. It'll then mold your content into what that looks like, and then send it out there and distribute it across all platforms.
And then the results speak for themselves on this. Yeah. And so
that's right.
There's the value.
That's right. And then, if a person is getting, 10, 20, 30,000 posts, impressions on a LinkedIn post, which LinkedIn's not a great distribution platform, but if they, from their perfect target customer, then they're going to find that when they do come across a client does engage with them, they start seeing their content, and they start seeing more and more of their content, and they actually get engaged with that whole way of thinking.
Smart. Yeah.
So it kind of chiming on tailoring content, because something I've always been curious about is sort of the cultural difference or friction between markets. As someone who's operated in a global perspective, I mean, have AI tools reduced the activation energy for adopting or expanding into a new market? I know that's kind of there have been several high profile expansions gone wrong, that are written about and studied relentlessly. Is that something that's where the activation energy has changed given a modern tool set?
I think overall, I think that there's great challenges that people are happy, are operating at a good enough level. They go, well, I'll just do this because it works here in the US. I'm going to say the same thing in Australia. And I think just and Australia and US are reasonably aligned. Maybe maybe Spain, or let's talk about that. So there's going to be cultural differences that does require a little bit of effort, does require a little bit of thinking. Of course, Europe has a different way of managing and looking at data than we do. So we just got to be cognizant of what we're trying to achieve here. So there's, and it doesn't take much effort, just takes some effort, because not everybody's the same as us. And I've since moving to the US 6 months ago, we're called the United States, but we're not that united, whether it be tax or any other cultural differences. There's significant differences between areas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Even in the US, marketing can be, yeah. I guess it's often thought of as a homogenous market, but it's probably anything but as far as business is concerned, which is a good point. It's kind of glossed over that sometimes.
Well, then it's because in most countries in the world, go state to state, and you are paying the same tax rate. You are, and the tax is baked into the price. And you are, like, for me, when I sell professional services, I have to know what state I'm selling to, because some states don't charge tax on professional services, but they do charge tax on software. I can sell $500,000 worth of software product in California without paying tax, but I can only sell $100,000 worth of software products here in Jersey without paying tax. It's a complete nightmare.
Huh. Interesting. So do you find it's easier in the States, like after moving here? Like, you moved for a reason, probably to get closer to customers. Was that the primary motivation?
Most people assume that. I moved because the same reason people climb Mount Everest, because it was there. I have no good reason, seriously, no good reason. We were walking around New York a couple of years ago. We saying to the family, wouldn't mind living here at some stage. And then we just made that happen.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's nice to get a change, right? Every now and then.
We're the sort of people that do that sort of thing. My laptop is here, and I've got a camera and a microphone, and wherever I am. Whether I'm talking to you from the Gold Coast in Australia, 2 miles from the beach, or here in Princeton, New Jersey, or in Seville in Spain, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. Yeah. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
the internet and software
Yep.
enterprises. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
true. Like, really, they're
Well, that's what it was sold
solving-
as, right? I mean, instant
Yeah, that's
communicator
right.
across
That's
the
what it was
world.
sold as.
That's
Exactly.
I mean, that was like the late '90s optimism playing out.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm glad it still works.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm just exercising my free will.
What a time to come to the country. We don't really talk politics, but lots going on here for sure these days.
Never a dull day.
Look, I saw a channel the other day who says, let's do a wrap up of what happened last week. And it was literally 30 things, 30 crazy, wild, outrageous statements, 30 like just completely unhinged things. I'm thinking, this is amazing. This is wild. But if you don't watch the news and you deal with the humans that are around you, it is a wonderful country full of genuinely nice people who actually give a crap. I have found it to be a really great place to come and move to. People are so nice. They talk about, well, you're going to the Northeast. They're not very kind. They're a bit short. You know what? I've not found that at all. Even when we're up in Boston, people, and maybe because being 6'3" and, an Australian, I can get away with it. But maybe I get away with it. I don't know. But, I was going to a meeting the other day in New York, and I'm looking at my phone, trying to go on Google, going, oh shit, Google Maps is freaking out. Don't know what's going on. Oh, excuse me, officer. I need to go to here, here, and here. How do I do that? And the guy goes, well, and they're just with absolute clarity, with no hesitation, said, go down here, turn left, turn right, go to the subway, catch this, that, and the other. Easy, cool. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Like, just people. I believe might be my small town naivety, but if you treat people with respect and expect a good response, you'll get it 99% of the time. And the time you don't get it, well, that's not on me. That's on them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fair.
No, I mean, there's nice people everywhere. It is interesting because the Northeast has gotten a cold reputation like that, but I feel like, there's nice people everywhere, and it's just how you speak to them and approach them. And
I've not met a single a-hole here.
Yeah, that's good.
Not one.
That's good to hear. I want to be an optimist.
And you know what? If you're not, well, then who does that benefit? Why not default to positive?
You kind of have to be, right? There's no choice. Really.
That's right. And I've spoken to friends of mine and customers of mine who are engineers, and and one of the early stage conversations I had with these engineering firms, and I said, so how do you guys see yourself? And they go, we're problem solvers. And I knew that's what they were going to say. I went, oh, okay, cool. What does a problem solver need to survive?
A problem.
Problems.
Is it ever
so
open?
their radar is up for problems. And I said, cool, that's it. Well, as long as you know that, and they sort of took the moment. I said, as long as you understand, that's how your default. So whenever I present you an idea, I'm not going to get bitter and twisted that you find problems with my ideas, because that's how you operate.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Where do you think people waste the most money? Like, as tech founders, do you see wasteful spending? What's your big take on like the
hiring
biggest way?
Salespeople. Okay, mate, I've got lots to say. Hiring junior marketers, think that all marketers are created equal. Let's just hire some $60,000 a year grad to do my marketing. Marketing is 25 disciplines all in one. The other thing is and the same goes for salespeople. Oh, we're growing. We need to hire our first salesperson. We have no sales process, no sales DNA in the organization. I wouldn't know what a sales looks like, other than my founder hustle that's created sales. And they hire some random off the street at the same. I'm not bashing anybody getting paid $60,000 a year. It's a valid amount of money, but if you expect a person to come in and run a department, which is if you're the first hire in that department, you're now running that department. If that person doesn't have deep understanding of selling or marketing, you are cooked, and you will burn hundreds of thousands of dollars trying a bunch of random tactics that won't work, because the person goes, oh, well, let's do some Facebook ads, and let's rewrite the website, and let's do this, that, and the other. And none of it sits underneath the strategic umbrella of, this is how we're going to look. We're going to all face in this direction for the next 12 months because this is the correct answer.
So even though it costs more, it costs more to hire someone better that knows more, that has more experience, but it's not a waste of money because it'll bring more returns down the road versus hiring that cheaper, fresher person that just ends up, being a waste of money, even though you think it's saving you money. Yeah, it's an interesting
Correct.
thing. Yeah.
So if for anybody who's early stage out there, they want to get access to somebody who is a bit older and a bit wiser and have been there, done that, and got the T-shirt, hire a fractional chief marketing officer, hire a fractional chief revenue officer, go and have a conversation with companies like startups or build a network of individuals. Networking is incredibly important. Find somebody who's been there and done it. Have a conversation with them about how they would go about it. If you hire a fractional at $6,000-$7,000 a month, that is hundreds of thousands of dollars cheaper, because you get to stand on the shoulders of their years of experience.
Yeah, that's smart. And how common is that? Is that like what you see a lot of your startups that you're advising? Like, do people like going that route? They find good results?
They like going with a cheap resource, or like going with a fractional?
Fractional.
Well, they don't like it because it's more money than they wanted to spend, and fractionals rarely actually do stuff. They tell you what to do, so that's annoying for doers. So for engineers who are doing the doing, or hands on keyboard sort of doing, it's annoying, and it usually takes Usually they will take somebody on after they've burned off 6 months worth of mucking around with a cheap resource who doesn't know what they're doing. It's you don't know how painful it is until you don't, the hot stove, you don't know how hot the stove is and how much it burns. If you put your hand on it when you're a kid, you go, all right, I'm not going to touch that stove anymore. You can tell a person over and over again but they got to touch the stove.
Yeah, they have to learn that's not good to be doing. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. Yeah. Sam?
I think no, I mean, the stove metaphor is a good one, right? It's and I think your point too about we place a lot of value on output. And so I think as an implementer, it's just sort of like, well, what's being done? There's not a lot of vision value that people like. Having a good plan is not necessarily valued as much as it should be. I think in a lot of ways, we're very biased toward, seeing something you can build a structure like a house and it can be extremely shoddy, but, people see it and it's like, oh, it's a big, they think, oh, it's a big house, it has a big kitchen, it's not, people don't care about how long the kitchen will last or what its purpose even is, but it's the fact that the output exists. And I think that's a big part of what motivates, people like to see, the end result, but they don't necessarily like to think about the process that gets you there or even would improve your situation ultimately, because it's very kind of cycle, hamster wheel right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. And I've often used the I guess the metaphor or the simile. I'm not sure. I wasn't an English major, but I've often said to people, well, if you'd never driven a car before, and you'd never seen a car before, a 1984 Toyota Corolla sounds exactly the same as a Ferrari. It's got 4 wheels, it's got a seat, it's got a steering wheel, and it's got a windscreen that you look out the front. And that's where a lot of, so if unless you have deep understanding of what that is, you're going to buy and because then if you don't have an understanding, then of course costs, and one's $2,000 and the other one's $200,000. Well, I guess it's less of a risk if I buy the Corolla.
Interesting. Yeah.
So,
Well,
you got to think of, so you got to find experts that actually understand what you're buying and then make sure it's fit for purpose.
yeah. Well, Matthew, this has been packed with insight. We really appreciate you for coming on. Anyone who's listening, though, that's stuck in the middle of scaling SaaS, revenues maybe growing, but not quite there yet, where can they find you and where should they start? What should their next move be?
Right. Yeah. Well, they can, if they want to find me at techtalk.co. So TECHTORQUE. You could find me on LinkedIn. Just find Matthew Whyatt. I'm hard to miss. And of course, Authority Rev Up. If you want to start publishing content daily that matters to your customers, authorityrevup.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. I had a great time. It's always
my
good
pleasure.
to speak to someone with this breadth and depth of experience. That's a rare treat. So thank you for your time today.
More than happy to help. More than happy to chat.
Well, Tech Talk Live's here